This is an impromptu video, a reply to some of the comments on my last video, MGTOW versus traditionalism versus feminism versus MRM, and will end on a rather long ramble. But before I get onto that, I want to talk about an incident that happened on Facebook. A rather popular user by the name MGTOW Central said this.
This woman is the biggest misandrist on YouTube. Flag the hell out of her channel.
To which I told him and others not to resort to flagging, and then I contacted Felicia1717, since that goofy little dingbat is the only feminist I know to contact, and I asked her if she could download and archive Palani's channel. Since I was not at my computer, and can't do that kind of shit with my phone, I was unable to get a hold of her. I think she's pissed off because she wrote me a massive novel not even addressing my video, just ranting about why she hates MRAs, her usual shtick, and I told her I wasn't going to respond to all that, it didn't address me or the video, and I'm busy. Anyhow, I was able to get home and use my downloader to archive Palani's channel. Luckily no one flagged her. I told this to Cheswold Almighty, he was busy with the wife. And couldn't download her channel, but he did write to MGTOW Central about why it is wrong to call for flagging, and then later MGTOW Central writes.
Recently I've been getting people complaining and moaning, insulting me and calling me names for my posts. As a MGTOW I'm shocked. All I'm doing is spreading awareness and helping make the MGTOW movement stronger, and I'm getting shit for it. Seriously, if you don't like what I post then get the fuck off my friends list. Sorry about the rant.
You were calling for the community to flag someone's channel because they said hurtful things that upset you. She hurt your feelings and you wanted to respond with censorship. What are you, a child? Can't handle someone speaking words you don't agree with? That is a completely vaginal way of looking at things. This person's opinions upset me, and I want revenge for that upsetness. Take away her right to upset me. Look, our words upset the feminists the same way their words can upset us. We see Sale to be a man-hater, and she is, but the feminists see us in the same way. The video that apparently set him off was, the problem with MGTOW guys, where she basically says MGTOW are all about attention. They claim to reject women but then obsess about women. They're like little children having a tantrum, and ultimately they are depressed and need help. And then she shared a story about her being committed to the hospital for bipolar depression, and reading poetry with a schizophrenic, and learning to heal, and suggested that MGTOW stop blaming women for what women didn't do, realize it's just depression, and they're taking it out on women. So yeah, that's her video in a nutshell, and I think she is sincere in her belief. I'm not going to comment on any of the things she said in that video, because that's not what this video is about. Anyhow, those words must have really upset MGTOW Central. After all, she's had videos a lot more insulting to the male sex than this one. Hell, if anything this one came off as a sympathetic video, so it makes me wonder if the upsetness MGTOW Central felt was their result of something she said struck a nerve. At any rate, we cannot go around flagging videos we don't like. Thus far, the MRM and MGTOW is not pro-censorship. However, I want to nip this in the bud before it becomes that way. Censoring a feminist on YouTube by having their channel taken down is not constructive. It does not push back feminism. It does not slow it down. You can't flag Hillary Clinton, Lady Gaga, or the thousands of university feminist professors indoctrinating thousands of young women per lifetime. You can't censor the mainstream media. If a feminist says something, especially if it is hateful, don't censor it, amplify it. Again, not that Sale was even really being hateful in this video. The real danger with a flag it attitude is that once this infects our community, this mentality will spread and we will turn on ourselves. We'll have the Tradkins, the MGTOW, the MRAs all flagging each other over disagreements. We can't make progress when we are busy flagging each other. Hell, we got the feminists flagging us as it is because they are terrified of the truth they don't want to hear. We don't need to turn on each other too. We need to rid censorship from our culture in general. We need to especially keep it out of our community or it will consume us. Again, we start off flagging an annoying cunt, next we're flagging every other MRA or MGTOW or Tradkin we don't like. Furthermore, if a video is really irritating, people like me and Sparky Fister like to pwn that shit by laughing at how ridiculous it is. Can't pwn it if it is taken down. Furthermore, stifling feminism via censorship will only hold back our own progress. We need them loud and up in our face. Again, not that we, a microscopic movement, can stifle the mainstream. The goal is not to hush them up, but to argue back and win, in the eyes of everyone that isn't unreachable. And again, if we allow the flag it mentality to infect us, it will turn inward and we will only apply the flag it principle to all of our brothers in the movement that disagree with us or upset us, and we can't allow that. And it just disturbs me a little that there are people in the movement so feminine and sensitive as to not be able to handle criticism, mockery, and ridicule. Again, is it something she said that was spot on, struck a nerve, and provoked such emotion to call for organized flagging? And in case anyone was wondering, what would I have done after archiving Palani's channel had it gone down? Well, I would have contacted her, told her I had a copy of all of her videos, and asked if she needed them to build up a new channel. Enough of that, moving on to my comments.
You start your argument with false dichotomies and straw-man definitions.
Well, That was a ton of hard-hitting and irrefutable rebuttals to my video, with all the amazing logical points and the tons of references you dropped. I don't think I could ever respond. I have simply never been exposed to such a powerful string of reason after reason why each and everything I said was wrong. Wow. Just wow. Your broad array of finely tuned arguments are far too much for me to handle. I know when I'm licked, I'll just scamper off now.
So women are hypergamous, monogamous, and men are polygynous? Wow. Please tell me, oh great one. How are you so smart? Enlighten me, so that I too could be just like you.
Yes, pretty much. Women are serial monogamous, or hypergamous monogamous. As far as how I got so smart, I don't know. I eat a lot of fish. I hear it's brain food.
Human population is a complex issue, and it is clear that you have no idea about it, despite rambling on and on about it. Sorry RBK, but this is your second stupid video. You have no freaking idea how population works.
Wow, you must be related to this guy. You both seem to be from the same school of telling people they're wrong, and then just walking away without evidence or example. I hope your school doesn't graduate you people into lawyers. Could you imagine these guys as your defense attorney? The defense may proceed with its opening statement. Your Honor, the charges against my client are ridiculous. The plaintiff is uneducated, and is attempting to use a straw man. I rest my case. The jury may now decide my client's fate. Good day, folks. Just what part of my population analysis is wrong? Can you explain it? Are you saying Whitey is gonna go extinct in the next few decades? Are you saying economy has nothing to do with population? Are you saying population is not going to level off? Are you saying if men don't put a ring on a bitch's finger humanity is going to go extinct? Are you saying we're going to overpopulate forever higher until we eat all of the Earth's food and go extinct? I mean, I can't argue you if you don't even tell me what of anything I said you are actually in disagreement with. But clearly, you're the population expert around here. You're the expert. It's how you know I am wrong, so use your wonderful expertise and teach us how it all works.
You claim to care about the future of men, without ever addressing how they should be raised. I was waiting for you to pose an alternative, but you never have. Every man going his own way already knows why fatherhood is a huge risk today, how our laws are anti-male, etc. We all agree here. Yet, it's also obvious that men and women will still procreate, women will still give birth to boys, and the next generation of men will come from this generation of boys. What is your stance on raising these boys? What is your advice to the MRAs who already have children? What system do you propose that could even possibly work better than a nuclear family? If patriarchy works better than single parenthood, and statistically, it does by a large margin, then how can an MRA be against a man having legal authority to lead his family? How can an MRA be against the best method for raising boys into men?
This is a good question, and I am going to take some time to think about it, and I'll either get back to you, or make a video on the subject. Before I answer this question, by any chance can you link me to the study that claims nuclear family, with man as boss, breadwinner, works better than other family models?
I'm defining patriarch as just the father being present. Not necessarily the couple fitting into a particular role. http://afatherlessgeneration.wordpress.com web link. This shows what happens when the father isn't present in the home. As for studies on nuclear family models with set gender roles, I can't find any statistics for those.
Okay, well, the first problem we have is you are in fact giving two different definitions of patriarchy. The first one, you are saying what system do you propose that could even possibly work better than a nuclear family? If patriarchy works better than single parenthood, and statistically, it does by a large margin, then how can an MRA be against a man having legal authority to lead his family? How can an MRA be against the best method for raising boys into men? This statement makes it crystal clear that you are talking about patriarchy in a way that gives a father legal authority over his family. Then you change that to just any system that involves a father being present. In other words, according to your second definition, the traditionalism you are promoting, this patriarchy you are promoting, is any system outside of single-parent mothers. The source you linked, which is not an actual study, but is a blog post that has done what so many other blog posts have done, and that's copy and paste a study without even bothering to link where the original study came from. Thus sources in these examples such as Department of Human Resources makes it very difficult to actually crack down the exact stat to see how they went about getting the numbers. It references books that I cannot find, because it gives no ISSN number. Again, this blog you linked me to, is just like a dozen other blogs that copied and pasted this information. I wouldn't mind seeing the actual original publication of the study, but I am not going to harp on that too much. What I want to get to is, the study, as you have just admitted, is the benefit of the presence of a father, or, how bad off kids are without a father. This says nothing about single-parent father families, or two men raising a child, or the importance of both a mother and a father, only the importance of at least one male parental figure, and says nothing of their gender roles. It says nothing about two-income families, daycare hours for the child, mother as breadwinner, or any of those things. For all we know, stay-at-home house husbands who are submissive yes men to their wives, are a part of that study, or could work just as good as a patriarchal male-dominated household. And furthermore, your second definition cannot even begin to be called patriarchy, since the word, by even its simplest definition, is rule by fathers, not presence of fathers. It also does not take into consideration that if one father can make this much difference in a child's life, perhaps two fathers could make even more of a difference. Or maybe the reason children develop drug habits, do bad in school, get in trouble with the law more, when they are without a father, is due to the circumstances that lead them to being fatherless. Maybe it was the divorce itself. Maybe mama is a bipolar psycho and that's why mom and dad divorced, and thus the moral would be, bipolar women need not breed. Maybe, and this is liable to be the bulk of it, the black inner city, poverty class, having the highest rate of absent fathers, has misbehaving children as a result of the ultra-violent poverty-stricken environment. So maybe the lesson here is that middle-class white kids living in the suburbs, whose mom and dad are likely to stay together, do better than black children raised in fatherless crack houses, to which I don't think we needed a study to prove that. So all in all, your statement that legal authority over his family, patriarchy, has somehow been statistically proven to be the best way to raise boys, is completely unsupported, and your second definition of patriarchy, meaning a male parent figure present, is not an argument of any kind against anything I said in that video. This is a typical mistake I see tradcans make, knowingly or unknowingly. They say, oh, science done proved gay marriage is bad for a kid, with a study, and then the study, a statistical compilation, shows that two-parent families do better than one-parent families, for any number of reasons, and says nothing about two moms, two dads, or anything like that. I have heard arguments that science proves the importance of biological parents, and I am sent links to studies that again, are about two-parent families, stating nothing about foster parents and step-parents. So again, lots of scientific myths out there. Anyhow, to summarize, you gave a definition of patriarchy, claimed statistics proved it was the best way to raise boys, and then changed your definition to effectively mean anything other than a single-parent mum raising children. But you did ask a few other questions. You asked, yet, it's also obvious that men and women will still procreate, women will still give birth to boys, and the next generation of men will come from this generation of boys. What is your stance on raising these boys, the average Joe and the average Jane, raising boys? I have no advice for them. There is nothing we can do for them. They're going to do what they're going to do. I also don't hand out parenting advice, other than I wouldn't recommend being a parent, just like I can't give marital advice, other than to say don't do it. You ask what is your advice to the MRAs who already have children? My advice is, do the best you can. Like I said, I wouldn't recommend having a child, but if you do, then I have no advice. I don't give parenting tips. Ultimately you, the individual parent, probably know more about the raising of your own child than I do sitting around speculating about you and your family, so just do the best you can.
I usually really enjoy your videos, but the part of forcing corporations with leave, and creating a biggest welfare state. I find this such a deluded plan. Try running a small company and tell me how that would work. So I call bullshit.
You call bullshit? You have his number? I tried calling him last week, the operator said he changed his number. Yeah, that sounded funnier in my head when I was thinking it. Anyhow, his statement was in regards to my idea that maternity, and maternity leave, tends to create a pay gap between men and women, and help fuel the traditionalist model of women as stay-at-home moms, or just part-time moms, while men are full-time and overtime plow horses, thus essentially keeping child raising and marriage a provider and dependent relationship, which, as I explained in my video, is primarily the divorce problem. My idea was, perhaps corporations need to be forced to pay both maternity and paternity leave, at a longer rate than they are currently forced to, and that the pay the mother and father receive, only be granted upon their return to that corporation, in the form of additional pay per month, pay per week, or whatever, until the total maternity/paternity pay is paid off over a course of a year, or the course of however long leave was. You claim this would be hell on small companies. Well, maybe it would be. Maternity leave, in the USA, by federal law, I do believe only applies to corporations of over 50 employees. Some states have lowered that number in one or more cases down to 10. Some states have made it the law that maternity leave lasts longer than the federal mandatory or 12 weeks. The 1964 Civil Rights Act only applies to corporations that have over 15 employees. If my idea were to be implemented, it would apply to large corporations, not the mom-and-pop antique shop who hires just one person to stock and sweep floors. A common libertarian tactic is to take a proposed restriction on corporations such as McDonald's, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, the tobacco, alcohol, banking, and pharmaceutical companies, you know, the gigantic global corporations and most powerful industries, and then say, well, imagine this restriction placed on Little Sally's lemonade stand. In other words, they take a proposed bill that is geared to the largest corporations in the world, and try to generate sympathy for the poor little mom-and-pop shops. I hear not all libertarians are like that, but at the end of the day, they seem to be placing the well-being of the rich corporate elite over the well-being of citizens with their Ayn Rand free market fetish. In fact, I blame them. more than the liberal leftists, for the middle class being fucked over. I am reminded of the George Carlin joke, you got the middle class that do all the work pay all the taxes, the upper class which does none of the work pays none of the taxes, and the poor people to keep the middle class afraid, keep them going to their jobs. It's like, the left looks out for the poor, the libertarians, which in America, looks like any other right-wing conservative when all is said and done, are looking out for the rich elite, and the middle class just gets fucked over like the George Carlin joke. Anyhow, your argument about how small business couldn't survive like this. Did I say apply this to all corporations indiscriminately, and to amend in no way, at any point in time, any part of this idea? Look, what you have to understand is, I'm tossing an idea against the wall. This isn't like I am standing before Congress with a carefully worded proposal, advocating for the passing of this bill before the end of the year. I am merely tossing out a highly flexible idea to be amended and worked with as needed to function.
I agree. I understand what RBK is saying, but he is basically advocating for institutionalized misandry in the form of the welfare state. He's right, we shouldn't force women into a role of traditionalism, but should we subsidize their choices through the welfare state? I feel we have a real problem though. On the one hand, women are wrecking the economy through BS subsidies like childcare, maternity leave, public sector jobs, and now they are bitching about work-life balance. On the other hand, women clearly need to be bought off in some way. I once joked that we should have a man tax if it meant we got rid of all the stupid entitlements they get. I am starting to think more and more like it's a good idea. Let's say each woman gets £300 a month in exchange for no maternity leave or childcare subsidies for the rest of her life. At least then the economy isn't strangled by their BS demands.
Alright, let me break this down and answer section by section.
I agree. I understand what RBK is saying, but he is basically advocating for institutionalized misandry in the form of the welfare state.
How is men and women both working 50-50, both earning the same money, both paying the same taxes, and taxes going to support gender-neutral programs? An act of misandry, as it was then, back in the day. Men did almost all the work, paid nearly all the taxes, and while the charity programs weren't so plentiful, they looked out mostly for women. As it is today, men do most of the work, though women are catching up, pay most of the taxes, though women are catching up, and the charity programs are plentiful, and mostly benefit women. Tomorrow I want both men and women working the same amount, paying the same taxes, the charity programs to be slightly less plentiful than they are now, and to be geared towards supporting both men and women, and only in cases where it ultimately pays off for the betterment of society, not rewards failure. I'm pretty sure my idea is a little less misandrous than the past or present.
He's right, we shouldn't force women into a role of traditionalism, but should we subsidize their choices through the welfare state?
I would like to remove their choices from the equation and replace it with their obligation, since the very way I explained it in my video was that this would be an incentive for women to work, and continue to work, and to prosper in their careers, so that they are less of a burden to their spouse and less of a burden to the state. Now, as far as not having the right to force women into a traditional role, I am personally a little more concerned with men being forced into their traditional role, since it is their traditional role that screws them over.
I feel we have a real problem though. On the one hand, women are wrecking the economy through BS subsidies like childcare, maternity leave, public sector jobs, and now they are bitching about work-life balance. On the other hand, women clearly need to be bought off in some way.
Are those things really wrecking the economy? You don't think our trillion-dollar effort to bomb Israel's enemies into the Stone Age is a contributing factor? You don't think the billions going to foreign countries is maybe hurting the economy? You don't think looking the other way while corporations pay legal Mexicans slave wage, thereby encouraging illegal immigration, and putting lower-class Americans out of jobs, is hurting the economy? You don't think maybe printing money out of thin air a la Federal Reserve System is hurting the economy? You don't think a welfare system that deliberately rewards a woman for staying home and not lifting a finger, and penalizes her for getting a job, is hurting the economy? Just the maternity leave and childcare services? I'm sorry, but I am not convinced in the long run that maternity leave and government assistance with daycare is even hurting our economy. Seems like if a woman has the government pay, or split the cost, of daycare, and the woman goes on to have a career and work her way up the ladder, and effectively spends her entire life being a career woman paying all those taxes, she will by the end of her life paid far more into taxes than the amount of taxes that paid for her daycare for a few years. And it seems to me removing government-paid daycare would make it more difficult for a single parent to actually work, and she may just stay at home on her ass collecting welfare and never paying back into the system. Seems to me like government-paid daycare is actually helping the economy by producing workers, by generating per person more income to buy things with, and by creating jobs. It creates jobs by amping up the availability for people to pay people to babysit. Now I say it seems like it would, rather than saying it does, because I am speaking in theory. I am speculating. I haven't actually studied the figures. But let's go over the formula. As I understand it, a woman has a baby, can't afford it, sits on her ass and collects welfare. This is a tax burden. Or a woman gets the government to pay for her daycare, while she works and climbs the corporate ladder and works until the age of retirement. The daycare business blooms and more jobs are created. I'm sorry, but it just seems to me that government-assisted daycare would help generate more jobs and tax revenue. I suspect what I am hearing right now is just libertarian taxophobia. The fear that any type of government assistance or taxes is an evil for the sake of being evil. And the problem with this phobia is that it is irrational. I agree throwing money at problems doesn't always make them go away. I agree paying people in a way that rewards their failure is not beneficial. But if a program is implemented properly, it can be beneficial to the economy and to the nation as a whole, and actually help the system to stay afloat. So it is better to not approach government assistance and government regulation of big corp, the way a religious fanatic views sin, as an absolute evil for the sake of it just being evil, with no rhyme, reason, or consideration. Furthermore, government-assisted daycare can benefit single-parent fathers, and as I said, if implemented properly, can benefit families. Since there is a certain libertarian not my taxes you motherfucker not my taxes mentality in this movement, here's something to think about. All the money that comes out of a traditional man's pocket to support his wife, consider it a tax, and promptly shut the fuck up about your taxes. And to all the tradcans screaming babies, Christ almighty we need to have more babies. Just consider the cost of each child to be a tax, and promptly shut the fuck up. Like I said in the video, the biggest reason for the lowered output of babies is that they are expensive and it is not economically advantageous to the individual. If this is such a panic for you, then part with a little taxes to incentivize breeding. Either our society has babies, or saves taxes, and some of these government programs can help people to manage parenthood and their career, thereby stimulating the economy and helping stave off population reduction. And it's a shame you are against it due to libertarian big goverphobia. However, as time goes on, in order to see an output of children higher than 2.1 per woman, I think more taxes will have to be paid to force that to happen. So again, more babies or save taxes, take your pick, but quit promoting traditionalism as the alternative when all traditionalism will do is create the exact circumstance we have now, parasitic females and the men who are bound to support them will lose it all in the divorce. That's the outcome of traditionalism, not feminism. Traditionalism, in its utopian theory is one man, one woman, lots of happy healthy babies, big house up on the hill, white picket fence, man as breadwinner, wife as happy housemaker, living happily ever after. In practice, it's men working their asses off to eventually pay off their student loan debt, wife staying at home alone with the kids at school all day, staying at home watching TV gossiping on the phone, cybersexing strangers online, developing depression, going on antidepressants, getting fatter, taking it all out on you, fighting, and divorcing you and taking everything because you chose the breadwinner role and she chose the parent role, thus she gets the kids and you pay for them. Traditionalists, please stop blaming feminism for things it didn't actually do. I originally had 20 more minutes of video to go, but I think it would be a little more fun to wait for the libertarians among us to go apeshit over this video first, then publish the second half of the video tomorrow.